Welcome, everyone, to today's session of Hot Topics in Nutrition, the Power of Plants, Benefits of a Plant-Based Diet, led by Colleen Timmons. This program is hosted by the Blum Resource Center. Over at the Blum, we are grateful to the nutrition team for this continued partnership. The recording of this session will be posted on our Blum YouTube playlist and our Blum Digital Resource Center. For those of you watching live, if you have any questions related to today's program, please feel free to utilize the chat feature throughout the session. At the end of the session, your questions in the chat will be used to moderate our question and answer. If you have any other questions or would like more information about resources and programs offered through the Blum, please visit our website at www.dana-farber.org/resource center or email us at blum_center@dfci.harvard.edu. Thank you all for joining us. I will now pass the workshop over to you, Colleen.
Thank you, Sierra. Hi, my name is Colleen Timmons. I'm excited to be celebrating my 5th anniversary at Dana-Farber this month. I work at the South Shore Satellite in Weymouth, and today I'm going to review the benefits of incorporating more plant-based sources of nutrition into your diet. Next slide, please. All right, so let's look at how two well-known health-related organizations define a healthful diet. So the World Health Organization states, evidence shows the health benefits of a diet high in whole grains, vegetables, fruit, legumes, and nuts, and low in salt, free sugars, and fats, particularly saturated and trans fats. The American Institute for Cancer Research states, no single food can protect you against cancer by itself, but research shows that a diet filled with a variety of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, and other plant foods helps lower risk for many cancers. So as you can see, plant-based sources of nutrition serve as the base of the healthful diets defined here. So in this presentation, I will encourage the inclusion of more plant-based sources of nutrition into your diet, but I'm not necessarily suggesting that you eliminate all animal-based food sources from your diet. Next slide, please. So today, we will look at a few common vitamin and mineral needs that can be met through a plant-based diet. We will discuss how this eating pattern plays a role in cancer prevention and how it can fit following a cancer diagnosis and during treatment. We will review the key nutrients that play a role in bone health and where you can find them. We will talk about the anti-inflammatory properties of a plant-based diet, potential barriers to starting plant-based diet, and tips for increasing your intake of these foods will be discussed. And finally, I have provided a few resources to help you get started on your plant-based journey. Next slide, please. So typically, dietitians recommend food over supplements, but there are several nutrients that we will discuss that may be lacking in a plant-based diet. Vitamin B12 is one of those nutrients. So vitamin B12's main job is to maintain healthy nerve cells, support proper brain function, and assist in the production of DNA and RNA. It can be challenging to meet 100% of B12 needs on a vegetarian or vegan diet because B12 is not produced by plants or animals, it's produced by bacteria. Some animals have a symbiotic relationship with the nutrients they eat and the bacteria in their digestive tracts, and this produces vitamin B12. This nutrient then accumulates in their tissues, and that's how we get the vitamin B12 when we eat those animal-based sources of nutrition. So no plant food has reliably been found to be a significant source of vitamin B12. Fortified non-animal products do contain a well-absorbed form of vitamin B12, but it can still be difficult to reach that recommended daily intake. So something like a fortified cereal could be a source of B12, and you'd want to check the label to see how much B12 you'd be receiving. Supplementation tends to be recommended with a diet that is solely plant-based, and this is something you can discuss with your medical provider if you are following a diet free of animal food sources. Next slide, please. Next up is vitamin D, often referred to as the sunshine vitamin. This is because your body synthesizes vitamin D when exposed to sunlight. Vitamin D helps the body absorb and retain calcium and phosphorus, both of which are needed for building bone. So vitamin D3 is more efficiently activated to calcitriol, which is the active form of vitamin D, than vitamin D2. Sources in a plant-based diet include fortified products like orange juice fortified with vitamin D, plant milks fortified with vitamin D, and fortified cereals alongside getting sunlight. For around 4 months out of the year, people living in Boston do not receive enough sunlight to synthesize adequate vitamin D. And when you're appropriately using sunscreen, that's also going to block about 90% of vitamin D absorption. So there's this balance between skincare prevention and adequate vitamin D production from the sunlight. And so oftentimes supplementation is recommended, especially during the winter months. And this is also a nutrient that you can speak with your medical provider about. This is a vitamin we do tend to recommend people supplement because it can be challenging to get enough vitamin D through diet alone. Vitamin A. So vitamin A supports eye health, stimulates the production and activity of white blood cells, and plays a role in bone health. So there are quite a few vegetables that contain adequate amounts of carotene, which the body then converts to vitamin A. So these include sweet potatoes, carrots, pumpkins, red bell peppers, kale, spinach, Swiss chard, and other leafy green vegetables. So there's quite a variety there. Because vitamin A is a fat-soluble vitamin, the addition of fat at a meal containing a vitamin A-containing food source can help you better absorb the vitamin A. So for instance, adding olive oil to a salad or a stir fry can help you better absorb this nutrient. Heating the vegetables also helps to better improve absorption. Next slide, please. All right, so calcium's up next. Calcium plays a role in bone health, blood clotting, muscle contractions, maintaining normal health rhythm and nerve functions. We will discuss calcium's role in bone health later in the presentation, but daily adequate calcium intake is very important. You can find calcium in plant foods, but the key is going to be to optimize absorption. So vitamin D is most important in determining calcium absorption, and this happens in the intestines. So oxalate is a compound found in some vegetables that can make calcium absorption more challenging. It reduces the absorption. So for instance, a vegetable like spinach actually contains quite a bit of calcium, but the oxalate in spinach prevents the majority of that calcium from being absorbed. So spinach still provides many other nutrients and should not be removed from your diet, but you may want to separate it out from your calcium-containing foods that you're eating at that meal. So the calcium from green vegetables that are low in oxalate include kale, broccoli, bok choy, lettuce, watercress, and then many plant-based dairy products are also fortified with calcium. Orange juice is also fortified with calcium, and tofu can be fortified with calcium as well. You would just want to check the label. So calcium needs can be met on a plant-based diet. Next slide, please. Iron is up next. Iron is a mineral that helps to maintain healthy blood, and a deficiency in iron can lead to iron deficiency anemia. And again, iron can be found in plant-based sources of nutrition. However, the type of iron found in plants is called non-heme iron, and it is not absorbed as well as heme iron. So non-heme iron includes whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes, leafy greens, potatoes with their skin, dark chocolate, fortified cereals, and then many bread and rice products will be enriched with iron. So you can increase iron absorption by including a source of vitamin C. So that would be citrus, bell peppers, strawberries, kiwi, tomatoes, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and white potatoes. Much like oxalate can hinder calcium absorption, there's a compound in some of the plant foods that contain iron called phytate, and that can also reduce iron absorption. Soaking lentils, beans, and grains overnight can help reduce the phytate content in those foods, and cooking the foods will also help reduce that phytate content. If you are taking a calcium supplement, it is recommended that you separate it out from the iron in your meal because calcium does impact iron absorption. So I know the timing can be a little bit tricky, and this is where a dietitian can come in if you have any questions about this and help you sort of sort through the timing of some of these nutrients and how you can optimize your absorption of them. Next slide, please. So now we're going to move on to how a plant-based diet fits into cancer prevention and during treatment after a diagnosis. So phytochemicals, what are phytochemicals? They are compounds found in plants that have bioactive properties. There have been thousands of phytochemicals identified. So in a role in prevention, progression, and treatment of cancer. They have been found to stimulate the immune system, slow growth rate of cancer cells, reduce inflammation, prevent DNA damage, and help with DNA repair. So how can you include more phytochemicals into your diet? Eat a diet varied in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and beans. Favor brightly colored and strongly flavored plant-based sources of nutrition. These are often the best sources of phytochemicals. Next slide, please. And now we move on to carcinogens. Carcinogens are substances that may increase your risk of developing cancer. There are foods that are considered carcinogens or probable carcinogens. Red meat is a probable carcinogen. This includes beef, pork, veal, mutton, lamb, and goat. Red meat is linked to a higher risk of colorectal cancer, even if it's fresh, frozen, or ground. The heme iron in red meat is associated with DNA damage and cancer development. Processed meat is a known carcinogen, meaning the evidence is very strong that it is linked to colorectal cancer. This includes bacon, ham, deli meat, hot dogs, and sausage. Processed meats have been treated through smoking, curing, salting, or fermentation. They contain nitrate, which can damage DNA in cells and lead to increased cancer risk. Red meat and processed meats may also increase the risk of breast, pancreatic, prostate, and stomach cancer, but more research is needed. So as we are moving into warmer weather, what about grilling and smoking meats? So cooking meats at high temperature, so this would include grilling, frying, and broiling, creates compounds that does cause DNA changes in lab studies. And so although we are focused on more plant-based sources of nutrition, some tips for making grilling maybe a little less risky would be to use leaner cuts of meat, use smaller cuts of meat so it's spending less time on the grill, so something like a kebab, and making sure your meats are thawed before you were to grill them. And then similar to grilling, smoking creates these compounds and they carry them onto the surface of the meat. So really, ideally, grilling and smoking are not recommended frequently. And then organic produce versus non-organic produce. Is there a benefit? So organic foods are grown under specific conditions. It doesn't necessarily mean that organic produce is going to be local or more nutritious. Both organically and non-organically grown foods must meet U.S. standards for safety. Organic produce, however, may expose people to less pesticides than non-organic produce. Overall, a diet rich in fruits and vegetables is recommended over limiting plant intake. So I sometimes say if you can find organic and you can afford organic and that's important to you, then that would be fine. But I wouldn't want to see you limit eating fruits and vegetables because organic is not an option for you. You can wash produce using cold flowing water, using the action of your hand to scrub or clean vegetable brush. This helps remove some germs and residue from natural or synthetic pesticides. Next slide, please. Okay, so now how can a plant-based diet fit into prevention? On average, according to the American Institute for Cancer Research, people should aim for a total of 30 grams of fiber a day. Higher fiber intake is linked to lower colorectal cancer risk. Fiber needs adequate fluid to do its work, so ensure that you are drinking adequate fluid, usually around 2 liters, unless you have been advised otherwise by your provider. And plant-based sources of nutrition are a great way to reach that fiber goal. And then weight maintenance. So where does plant-based nutrition fit into weight maintenance? Whole plant foods tend to be lower in calories than animal-based foods, and they have a higher nutrient density. That fiber helps you feel more satisfied after meals. And so this helps with weight maintenance, and it's beneficial for reducing the development of inflammation, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. Fruits and vegetables are rich in antioxidants, so we recommend aiming to eat at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables combined daily. And then legumes and soy, we get a lot of questions about soy and cancer risk, and there has been some confusion about this. And it may go back to studies that were done in mice and rats, but human studies have shown that there may actually be a benefit to including whole food sources of soy into your diet, especially when looking at Asian populations who have a lifelong soy intake that is higher than that of the US. So several large analyses of the research regarding soy and cancer risk has shown that those with higher soy intake saw better outcomes post-treatment and lower cancer risk for several types of cancers. So we do recommend whole food soy sources. That would include tofu, edamame, soy milk, miso, tempeh, and we recommend these whole food soy sources over supplements. Supplements could contain higher levels of isoflavones. Isoflavones are a phytochemical in soy that can act like estrogen in the body, and that's why there has been this concern, because higher levels of estrogen are linked to a higher risk of certain types of breast cancer. And supplements just haven't been studied as widely, but the amount that you'll get in a whole food source is considered safe. So legumes include the leaves, stem, and pods from a specific plant family. Pulses are what's typically going to end up on your plate. So those are the dry beans, peas, and lentils. And those are a great source of dietary fiber. They contain numerous potential protective phytochemicals called polyphenol compounds. So including both of those certainly are recommended, the soy and the legumes. Next slide, please. So what about plant-based nutrition during treatment? So really the recommendations for including plant-based sources of nutrition into your diet are similar in treatment as they would be to prevention. We typically focus on getting adequate calories to prevent weight loss, adequate protein intake to help you maintain your muscle mass and help promote healing and repair, and adequate fluid intake to maintain hydration levels. And I'll put a plug in for fluid. Proper hydration helps to keep energy levels up, and it aids in bowel regulation. Like we said, fiber needs that fluid to do its job. So a dietitian can assist with designing a personalized plan that would help you include more plant-based sources of nutrition into your diet while meeting your nutritional needs, and can also help counsel you on nutrition management of any treatment-related symptoms that you're experiencing. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to move on to bone health. So what are the minerals that are involved in bone health? Calcium is likely the nutrient that comes to mind when you think about bone health. Due to calcium's role in many important bodily functions, the body does a really nice job maintaining the preferred calcium level. And your body calcium level is impacted in 2 ways. How much calcium you're taking in from your diet, and then if you are not taking in enough calcium from your diet, your body goes to your bones to get that calcium reserve. Unfortunately, the borrowed calcium is not always replaced, so consuming enough calcium every day is important to maintain health. Calcium is ideally obtained through diet. Leafy greens, calcium-fortified dairy alternatives, and calcium-set tofu have rates of absorption similar to dairy. So phosphorus. Along with calcium, phosphorus is the most abundant mineral in the body. Approximately 85% of the body's phosphorus is found in the bones. This mineral works with calcium to build and maintain bones and is regulated in part by vitamin D. Sources of phosphorus include beans, chickpeas, lentils, soy, nuts, and pumpkin seeds. And the last one is magnesium. Magnesium is present in bone and teeth and plays an important role in bone health. It is found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and beans. Next slide. And now onto the vitamins. Vitamin D we already discussed. This helps the body absorb calcium from our diet and gastrointestinal tract and prevents excessive loss of calcium in our urine. And like we said, That's either sunlight or supplements for the most part. You may be able to get some from fortified foods. Vitamin A is up next. It's plentiful in the plant-based diet. These foods are rich in antioxidant and therefore bone protective. Higher carotenoid and lycopene intake is associated with lower fracture risk. And vitamin B12 helps preserve bone density, but also plays a role in preventing neurological damage, which could lead to fewer falls and fewer fractures. And like we discussed, supplementation may be needed if you are not eating any animal sources of nutrition. Next slide. And to close out bone health, vitamin C is an antioxidant involved in collagen synthesis. So collagen is a fibrous protein in connective tissue that is weaved throughout various systems in the body, including the bone. Vitamin C sources include citrus, fruit, red and green bell peppers, kiwi, broccoli, and strawberries. Vitamin K is one we get asked about a lot. K1 and K2 are needed to make proteins involved in forming and strengthening the bone. Vitamin K1 is found in dark leafy green vegetables, blueberries, kiwi, broccoli, and cauliflower. Excuse me. Vitamin K2 is found in natto, which is fermented soybean. And sauerkraut is another plant-based source of K2. Sorry. So plant-based nutrition and inflammation. So although inflammation produces unpleasant side effects, it is a healthy response of our immune system. Inflammation becomes harmful when it's prolonged and begins to damage healthy cells, creating a pro-inflammatory state. So possible dietary causes of inflammation include diets high in saturated fat and processed foods, diet that lack diversity. High amounts of fiber in whole plant foods is beneficial to the gut microbiome, which is our gut bacteria environment. Excuse me. Plant-based diets are lower calorie and nutrient dense, promoting weight maintenance. So there's no single anti-inflammatory diet plan. Generally, it's recommended you eat a variety of plant-based sources of nutrition and healthful fats and potentially even some oily fish. So the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet are popular dietary plans that incorporate these foods. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a cold today. The anti-inflammatory diet plan not only highlights specific foods, but also discusses foods that we should limit. So this would be fatty cuts of red meat, refined sugary foods and drinks, and excess alcohol. Next slide. So how can we work on adopting a plant-based diet? It's natural to fall into routines and have go-to meals and food preferences. Trying new foods may lead to needing to research new preparation methods and recipes. Maybe your favorite restaurant doesn't offer many or any plant-based options. Typically, we don't think of drive-through windows as being a good source of plant-based options, and so it's not really perceived as something that would be convenient or a fast food. Produce can be expensive, so it's not always financially feasible to be doing this regularly. And there may not be a lot of plant-based options at that Super Bowl party or grilling this summer at barbecues or during the March Madness celebrations. So that can be another barrier. Next slide, please. So what are some strategies for getting started? Well, first off, it's identifying your why. Why is this important to you? Starting with small, achievable goals and build from there. We're going to review on the next slide some tips for doing that. Meal prep can be helpful. This may involve writing out a grocery list before you head to the store, trying a meat-free recipe once a week. Meatless Monday is a trend. Stocking up on snacks like nuts and nut butters, roasted chickpeas, roasted soy nuts, pre-packing your salads, or pre-slicing your fruit for the work week. There is no one path to this dietary change, but finding a system that works for you will point you towards success. There's so many options for finding plant-based recipes online, and some of the resources I'm going to discuss at the end of the presentation are some options for that. You could start reviewing the salad section of the menus when you eat out, or maybe substituting the fries or the rice offered with the menu or with your entree with vegetables. You could try food from different regions Indian and Asian cuisine are rich in vegetarian options. And then gathering support, discussing your motivation for making this dietary change with your friends and your family. Perhaps they will want to join in trying a meatless dish at home or when eating out. But that support is really helpful in being successful with this transition. Next slide, please. So this graphic is adapted from one of our handouts at Dana-Farber. So it demonstrates how you can either gradually add more plant-based sources of nutrition into your diet, or there are tips for ramping up your goals a bit more quickly. So for instance, with the vegetables, a slow start might be aiming to consume 3 servings of vegetables per day, most days of the week. And if you're coming from no vegetables or maybe occasionally 1 vegetable, maybe you make that 1 or 2 vegetables a day, most days of the week, and start to increase from there. If you're looking to kickstart things, aiming to consume 5 servings of vegetables or more on most days of the week. With fruit, again, aiming to consume 1 serving a day or maybe 2 servings if you're looking to advance a little bit more quickly. Whole grains would include oats or brown rice, quinoa, bulgur, millet, barley, aiming to make that at least 50% of your grains would be whole grains if you're looking to slowly start, or then going up to 100% if you're looking to kickstart. And then the next slide, we're going to talk about what a balanced plate could look like. So aiming to do that at least half the time or 80% of the time if you're looking to kickstart. And then down to the meat, we discussed red meat and processed meats. So slow start might be, like I said, just trying to designate 1 meal a week as a meat-free meal and try out new recipes, make it fun. Limit red meat consumption. If you're doing more than 18 ounces per week, which is a little more than a pound per week of the beef, lamb, or pork, try to reduce it to 18 ounces or under, and aiming to avoid all processed meats. If you are doing less than 18 ounces a week and you want to really sort of hit your goals more quickly, trying to reduce to less than 11 ounces per week. So that's a little more than a half pound. And again, avoiding all processed meats. And then trying to do more like 3 to 5 meals a week where you choose a plant-based protein instead of an animal-based protein. Next slide, please. So this is the New American Plate. This is from the American Institute for Cancer Research, and the website is there. So this is a bit of an adaptation on the traditional balance plate, and we still do use that balance plate graphic for education. But what this really tries to encourage is a variety of vegetables, different colors on your plate, focusing on whole grains and less of a reliance of animal protein. So this is just a nice visual. Stir fries lend themselves to this really nicely, or a salad is another option. Next slide, please. And then these are the resources. So Dana-Farber has a nutrition services website where we include recipes, nutrition tips for during treatment and beyond. There's recommended books and websites. The Dana-Farber Zagum Center for Integrative Therapies and Healthy Living, it has its own dietitian who provides programming to support healthful eating. There's also a section for plant-based recipes. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is our dietitians' national association, so lots of healthy eating information there. The American Institute for Cancer Research, they provide evidence-based recommendations regarding diet and lifestyle as it relates to cancer risk, and that New American Plate graphic comes from that organization. Many of you are probably familiar with the American Cancer Society. They have a diet, physical activity, and healthy living section on their website with a lot of helpful tips. And then this one's really great, the Healthy Eating Plate from Harvard T.H. Chan School for Public Health. And it can be used as a guide to create healthy, balanced meals. A lot of great information on there about various fruits and vegetables and vitamins and minerals and all the things that we discussed. And next slide. Okay, so any questions?
Thank you so much, Colleen, for that very informative and also important program. I didn't see any questions come through, but to our audience that's on with us, as a reminder, if you would like to ask Colleen any questions, please put them in either the chat or the Q&A feature, and I can read them out to her. While you guys are thinking about your questions, this session was recorded and it will be posted on our Blum YouTube playlist. So please keep an eye out for that in the coming weeks. Thank you all for joining us today, and we will give it a minute to see if anyone has any questions that we might be able to answer. But thank you again so much, Colleen, for presenting today and sharing all this great information with us. All right, Colleen. If folks have any questions, they can always send it to me and I can make sure it gets to you. Thank you everyone for being here today, and thank you so much again, Colleen, for the wonderful presentation.
Thank
Take
you,
care, everybody.
everybody.